7 o'clock, Monday, October 21st, 2019. I call the regular meeting of the Waverly City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Perkins.
Here.
Drinkow.
Present.
McKenzie.
Here.
Ruffey. Here. Scher.
Present.
Walston. Here. Kangas is absent.
And welcome back, guest lady. Again. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move approval of the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any council discussion, questions? Next item is approval of the minutes from the September 23rd, 2019 study session. I'd entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion made seconded to approve the minutes of September 23rd, 2019. Council questions, discussion? Hear none. All those in favor of the minutes approve, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Approved. September 23rd minutes are hereby approved. This brings to a real special occasion, an employee limelight. And Carla said she got into her book of vocabulary and pulled that word out, something a little bit different. At this time, it's recognition of Children's Services Sue Van Heemation Youth Services Subdivision. And Sarah, if you would like to say a word or two first, then Sue has something that she'd like to say.
Sure. Purchase is probably going to be necessary regardless of what's done in that with the bridge. We know that it's not going to be there in its present state forever. We need to take it down, or we need to remodel it, or we need to replace it. And so one of those three things is going to happen in the future. When the Fitches came to us and said, we'd like to sell it to the city if you're interested, we were interested and we talked about it. We felt like the price was a fair price. I believe that the appraised value when they bought the property back in 2015 was actually $128. So it's closer to what this price is that we're offering for the property. It's a fairly nice home for what we can use it for renting it. It's possible it could be moved if somebody was interested in taking it somewhere. It's got the type of house that could be moved fairly easily, since all the utilities have been taken out of the basement and are upstairs. So it could be something that could be moved somewhere, and we started sort of looking for that now, but we'll kind of wait until we have a better idea when the timing will be. So we just thought better to take advantage of this. If we don't necessarily need this house in order to do a project, but the fact that on the north side of the bridge, there really isn't a very good location to work with remodeling or replacing or removing the bridge. And it would really be helpful if things like cranes and things can be working from that bank to work on that project. Plus, they'll be working on an abutment if there's a replacement. Oh, actually, regardless of whether it's a replacement or rehabilitation, they would have to replace the abutments anyway, and so that'll result in working on that end of the bridge. So we felt like it was a good deal. It allows us to control the house for whatever happens. We can do it now with a property that can bring some income in while we wait.
Well, I have no problems with the proposal. I think it's a good one. I just had some concern about trying to salvage the house instead of demolishing it.
I think that's our first choice.
Yeah.
You have to look at how far they'd have to take it.
Right.
But they can take those pretty far. It's a square, rectangular home. It can be moved fairly easily.
Well, the Baptists sent their house to, Independence or someplace, someone that they just moved?
I'm not sure if it went all the way to Independence, but it went to Buchanan County, I think, somewhere.
Someplace over there. So it just seems to me it would be a movable item.
We'd rather do that than demolish it, yes.
I'm supportive of this too, and I appreciate the fact that after the council, during our budget discussions, talked about the need for attention to the 3rd Street bridge, given the Bramer Avenue crossing in the future, the bridge from the DOT. I appreciate the fact that when the Fitches approached city staff about this, that you brought this to our attention, knowing that we were already thinking about things along that line. Again, lots of steps still to be taken, lots of actions on city council still to occur. for that, but I do appreciate, I mean, it feels to me like you listened to what we were talking about in our budget discussions and responded to this and shared it with us appropriately, so I'm supportive.
And I'll just add one thing, that when we talked about it, I think we talked about a contract with the Fitches, which they were willing to do, which meant they wouldn't have been able to get their money for a full year. We talked to the bank, and the bank basically gave us the same interest rate. It's a 3.25% and only $100 in fees. So based on that, it was just easier not to have a contract with the property owners. We'll let them have another, they're buying a new home, and we'll give them a month or so to get settled in before we take charge, but we can probably get ready to maybe advertise and rent it after that.
Kind of mentioned this when we talked about it before, that I would certainly encourage us to maybe try to reach out to some of the nonprofits that need transitional housing to see if that would be a way to break even, I guess, and then continue to provide
Sure.
community service and
It's a great idea.
not compete with landlords, I guess.
I do want to point out that while I very much support this purchase, this is not, we are not yet committing to replacing or renovating or removing the Green Bridge yet. This is something that will apply in any of those options. This is a good choice for the city regardless of what we do with regard to the 3rd Street Bridge. I think it's a good idea for the city to control the land adjacent to the river, especially when you have a river that floods regularly. So I just want to reassure the citizens that this is not us deciding to replace the 3rd Street Bridge at this time. We are not setting in motion things that will lead to an inevitable decision. This is just something that's a good choice at this time, regardless of how the 3rd Street Bridge pans out.
I just think it puts us in a good position for whatever
Absolutely.
choice gets made.
Correct.
What is the status of the Green Bridge at this time?
It's still closed.
Thank you.
I would just reiterate that we did talk about it a lot. No decisions were made, but we
Okay.
did talk a lot about it during the budget discussions, and I think it was a focus of attention for the future,
Okay.
and perhaps even earmarked in a way for, not earmarked for budget necessarily, because those decisions still have yet to be made, but certainly earmarked as a high priority given future projects down the road, some of which we don't
Because I
have
know
any
people have
control over.
wondered
Yeah.
what is going to happen.
I would say we've done budget planning, and we identified where we could fit it in the budget in the future. We have not made decisions to spend that money in that way yet, but if we were going to do it, we know what year we would be able to do it.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Roll call vote, please.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Hagus.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Scher.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Resolution 19-161, approving the purchase of property located at 517 3rd Street Southeast, hereby approved. The next several resolutions are housekeeping measures necessitated by CBDG grant that Intercog is going to administer for us. So bear with us. Resolution 19-163, a resolution adopting an equal opportunity policy for Waverly, Iowa. Entertain a motion.
I will move approval of Resolution 19-163, adopting an equal opportunity policy for Waverly, Iowa.
Second. And I'll just indicate that based on our conversation, I believe with Abby, she indicated that was the consistent language to what we already have in our employee manual.
Okay, yeah, so that was kind of my first question is, don't we already have this?
Yes.
And the answer is, yeah, okay, good to know. And so this is all with regard to the CDBG grant. CDBG grant. Have we been approved for this?
Yes.
This is the last step before being approved for this? Or so it's a done deal, and these are things we have to do to receive that money?
Right.
We actually got it this time.
Yeah, we
Actually
already,
got
we did get the grant. Now we are starting to work on identifying applicants and moving forward with the grant process.
So a really dumb question following what Brian just said. If we actually have this language, why can't we just use that?
Because it's easier to send a copy of this one that the feds have used the language to them when they want to see it.
All right,
It's really
so-
packaging it together as
Yeah.
the resolutions they want to see to comply with the grant.
It's actually a redundancy, but you have to do it.
Somewhat, and I believe that, I did send out the 2009 version that the city did sign for the dam project. And Rose Phillips is here from Intercog, and she can maybe give us an overview and maybe talk about all of them up front, and then we don't have to do it every time.
Yeah, pretty much what Bill said. I mean, the funding source requires it, so we have to do it. I think most of these come from statutes. I don't think, maybe one or two of them might come from executive orders, but they all come from the federal government, and as far as I know, they apply across all types of federal grants. And for the time it would take to weigh whether a city's existing ordinance or policy meets the minimum requirements of the federal ordinance, it's better just to pass the federal ordinance, because when the state comes to monitor the program files, they'll be looking for that ordinance. And the language for some of the ordinance templates has changed. So it's best to have the up-to-date versions.
The only thing I would say to that is we do have to do it if we want the grant, but only if we agree with what's in there. Yeah.
There are two that I know you can modify to make more stringent if you need to be in line with city policies. Those are the procurement policy and the code of conduct, but you can't make them less stringent.
Right.
Any other questions for,
Well, I don't know who this is a question for. Was it announced that we received the CDBG grant and I just forgot it?
yes?
Okay, good.
Well, I don't know if you just forgot it. Maybe you weren't here. I don't
I can
know.
accept that.
It was a couple months ago. Yeah, something like that. Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any other council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi. Yes. Scher.
Yes.
Waldstein. Yes. Bergen.
Yes.
Resolution 19-163, adopting an equal opportunity policy for Waverly is hereby approved. Resolution 19-164, a resolution adopting a residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan for the city of Waverly. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 19-164 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi. Yes. Scher.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Resolution 19-164, adopting a residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan for the city is hereby approved. Resolution 19-165, a resolution adopting an excessive force policy for Waverly, Iowa. Entertain a motion.
I move approval of Resolution 19-165 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion.
I was reading the language in there, and just as an item of curiosity, how do we define excessive force?
It doesn't. I just have to use your best judgment.
Yeah.
This is one where the language hasn't changed. The only change I've found since 2009 is that the word "the" is present in some places where it wasn't before. And in 2009, Richard Purcell was listed as the contact person in the resolution.
Yep.
So my understanding is he's still the police chief today.
Yes.
And to be fair, I think Rich did talk about this on Friday, and they do have a policy regarding this, but I don't think he found it to be inconsistent with what this policy says.
It is or isn't?
Is not inconsistent, I guess.
So we are actually trusting the police department to have good common sense and to follow good judgment, which I'm not unwilling to do, but just checking.
Further questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Waldstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Resolution 19-165, adopting an excessive force policy, Waverly, Iowa, is hereby adopted. Resolution 19-166, a resolution adopting a lobby policy governing the lobbying of housing and urban development personnel and/or Department of Commerce personnel. I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 19-166 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion made, second. Council discussion, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Rafi?
Yes.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Waldstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Resolution 19-166, adopting a lobbying policy for housing and urban development is hereby approved. Resolution 19-167, a resolution adopting an affirmative fair housing policy for the city of Waverly, Iowa. Entertain a motion.
I will move approval of Resolution 19-167 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion made, second. Council discussion, questions?
Just to confirm that we don't have anything that resembles this currently?
Other than the one that we passed in 2009, I couldn't find any
Okay.
where we had an actual policy that had been passed, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
And I mean, and this is compatible with that, correct?
Yes, I believe there were maybe some
Yeah,
stylistic changes.
the language has been updated on this because IDA has changed the way that it has its grantees meet affirmative fair housing requirements. I mean, for the most part, the city's direct responsibility will be if someone has a fair housing complaint and they want to bring it to the city, then the city has to receive it and process it. I mean, Waverly is directly involved in housing kind of in a limited fashion, but it just means to the extent that we do that, we have to, so for instance, we shouldn't, if we were this was a larger city, it would mean you can't just invest in low-income areas, you have to spread low-income housing opportunities throughout the community and, in a variety of areas of opportunity. I mean, that doesn't really apply to the housing programs that Waverly has done.
Right. I just want to make sure, because I did remember that we had, something related, and I just wanted to make sure that we were aligned with that by approving this.
Yeah. And this is pretty broadly written. I mean, it mostly just reiterates federal and state requirements.
Yeah.
Holly, could you swing the mic over a little closer to you?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if I could ask also, would sexual orientation fall under the umbrella of the word sex in this resolution?
Yes, according to
It's under the
the
Iowa Civil Rights
states,
Act.
yeah,
of
the state
1965.
covers race, color, creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, national origin, disability, familial status.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Waldstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
And Rafi?
Yes.
Resolution 19-167, adopting an affirmative fair housing policy for the city of Waverly is hereby approved. Resolution 19-168, a resolution adopting a procurement policy for the city of Waverly, Iowa. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 19-168 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Waldstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Resolution 19-168, adopting a procurement policy for the city of Waverly, Iowa is hereby approved. Resolution 19-169, a resolution adopting a code of conduct for the officers and employees of the city of Waverly, Iowa. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 19-169, adopting a code of conduct for the officers and employees of the city of Waverly, Iowa.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion, questions?
I was just wondering, under the definition of employee, if members of the city council are considered employees for this purpose. I would assume they are.
I would say you'd be considered an officer. So if your brother was coming to the council with a contract to be awarded, you would have to recuse yourself. I mean, that's the kind of thing that the code of conduct covers.
Okay.
My interest, I was just wondering where it falls or how this necessarily applies with the employee handbook and things we've done with the city. Since those are, while they're not directly negotiated with the contract now, but we had a lot of discussion with our last contract with the city employees about that. How does this interact with that or supersede that?
I think what's important here is to look at the application is supposed to be those people who are engaged in the award or administration of the contracts supported by the federal grant. So it really is you can't have a conflict of interest, a direct conflict of interest, if you have any role in that process, which we do have things that address conflict of interest in our policy. The other thing is, you're talking about fraud, waste, and abuse. It really is regarding what's happening with regards to this grant process. Mm-hmm. And I think it's supposed to be focused on that kind of conduct, really, when it comes down to it.
So these resolutions that we're passing now, they are only applicable to the
Some of them, it
grant
depends
project?
on the way they're written. This one, it says, the purpose of this code is to ensure the efficient, fair, and professional administration of federal grant funds in compliance with federal regulations and other applicable federal and state awards, regulations, and laws. So narrowly construed, it does just apply to this grant, but I don't think there's anything in it that would be really novel in terms of other city business. And so I imagine in other contexts there are policies regarding conflicts of interest or not accepting gifts or anything of value, and a policy for fraud, waste, and abuse.
But strictly speaking, this is the only resolution that explicitly mentions the project itself, the grant itself.
It just mentions federal grants. It doesn't say the activity.
Right, federal grants, but the others did not do that. Is that correct?
I'd have to look through them. Most of them have language that references.
Well, there was the
affirmative
lobbying
policy,
one,
the
which is
affirmative
more specific.
depends
fair
on
housing policy would apply to all that we do, including the Waverly Homes, low-rent housing, that kind of thing.
The procurement policy just applies to the CDBG award, but a lot of these are common practices for cities, having fair competition, having specifications clear enough that people can fairly bid.
So
The excessive force obviously does not just
Right.
apply to the grant.
Right.
process.
So on this one, I guess, where just to understand, because, on the one hand, it's housekeeping, on the other hand, it's important content. And so on this one, for example, when you just explained that even though it says explicitly grants, but that it is understood to be more broadly applied, where, for example, would our volunteer fire department, would they be included in officers, employees, or agents of the city of Waverly?
That I'm not sure. Is there a situation where, in the eyes of this resolution, you think there might be a perceived conflict?
Well, I'm not implying anything. I'm just asking for clarification.
I'm not sure if it applies to a volunteer fire department.
It is broad enough, though, that it basically talks about people reporting fraud, waste, and abuse. So I think anybody it has zero tolerance for the commission or concealment of acts of fraud, waste, or abuse. And so I think it could be broadly construed, this provision.
Well, I think the concern is that we already have policies dealing with conflicts of interest. in our employee handbook. I know we do with our policies for the council. I just want to, this seems to be very, very broad. I just want to make sure that we're not, if there is an issue, that we know what policy it is that we are under. If this is a replacement of what we are currently having, this is not nearly as detailed as what we currently have in our policies. I think that this could probably be construed dealing with awarding of contracts that are supported by federal grant funds, whereas all of our other policies are just policies in general. So I think that I would feel more comfortable if, and this discussion is probably not really going to be all that germane for anything because we need to approve these for the grant, but I think there are situations where some of these things may apply specifically to the federal grant process, and we are still free to set policies as we feel are appropriate for other things that might be more restrictive or less restrictive than what these code of conducts are.
Well, this seems specific to federal grants.
It does say under the requirements that it talks about participation in the selection, award, or administration of a contract for a grant. And it also talks in terms of shall not solicit or accept gratuities, favors, or anything of monetary value from potential contractors, subcontractors. I think that's our main concern, is that
Sure.
you're using
And I
this
understand that,
process.
but there was a comment made about a broader application than just for this grant, and so I was just wanting to make sure we talked about that and understood any
I
implications.
think it's probably
And
more.
who the specific people are, just like Rod asked, are we included as council people? And the answer was that we're officers, and, who are employees, who are agents, and so I was just trying to gain clarification on that.
And you do vote on the approval of those grants. And so, in fact, if you knew about something, then you would have to recuse yourself or bring it forward.
Okay. Any other discussion? Questions? Roll call vote, please.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Resolution 19-169, adopting the code of conduct of the officers and employees of the city of Waverly, hereby approved. Thank you, Molly, for your input and clarification on some things. Resolution 19-170, a resolution approving a plat of survey for the properties located at 2103 East Bremer Avenue for Hannawalt United LLC. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 19-170, approving a plat of survey combining the 4 existing parcels into 2, parcel 00 and parcel PP for the properties located at 2103 East Bremer Avenue for Hannawalt United LLC.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council questions, discussion?
So by my reading of this, they own this property, they want to redivide it so that when they construct a new building, it will match requirements by code.
Right, and they're actually combining some parcels together so
Yeah.
that there'll be a north parcel and a south parcel.
Yeah, instead of 4
Which will relate to
parcels.
the two structures that are basically on those properties. I think there's more than one structure on parcel PP. They're proposing to add a small structure on the north side that will be across that line, so they want to combine those two.
Other questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Resolution 19-170, approving the plat of survey combining parcels for Hannawalt United LLC, hereby approved. Resolution 19-171, a resolution approving an amended contract with Rebecca Lawman McCarley doing DBA Spark Consulting to complete a reconnaissance level survey of the northeast residential neighborhood in Waverly. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 19-171 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Questions, comments?
I would just tell you that.
I feel her pain.
We weren't trying to be,
Sometimes things come up.
hyper technical about this. She actually requested the extension, so we thought that was just fine, one way or the other. We'd have taken her excuse.
The Historic Preservation Commission hardly endorses this extension.
Yes. Any other questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Scher.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Resolution 19-171, approving an amended contract with Spark Consulting is hereby approved. Resolution 19-172, a resolution accepting the Living Roadway Trust Fund grant funds to be used toward the purchase of a utility task vehicle for the Vegetation Management Division. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 19-172, a resolution accepting the Living Roadway Trust Fund, LRTF, grant funds to be used toward the purchase of a utility task vehicle for the Vegetation Management Division with a city match of $2,900.25.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion?
So we already got the funds for this?
Garrett, would you enlighten us, please?
We will receive the funds with resolution approval of the council.
So,
That's a sure thing, Garrett?
Yes.
so Garrett, was it difficult to get this grant? Seems like,
No, it wasn't actually. There has been a turn, there's not a lot of cities that have vegetation management divisions. It's mostly
Good.
county. And so it's looked at as very good when a city has a vegetation management division.
Well, kudos to you
Yeah,
and to
okay.
Tab and to Mike for putting that
Knowing about
before
it.
us last year to consider. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other things we can get?
I think that's the next resolution.
I see the next item.
And in the spirit of that, we were contacted, I believe it was last week, that there are still some funds available. At this point, we don't have anything else budgeted, to receive that, but we may see what's actually out there and come back with something else.
Okay.
Good.
well, since we're talking about so few cities having this, how many cities in Iowa, do you know, have a vegetation management program?
I don't know the number. Mike, do you have it? No, I'm not sure. When I say a few, though, I think it is less than 10.
No kidding.
Wow. So our new vegetation management employees can be very happy to get new equipment right away. That's great.
Okay.
I just assumed it was a run-of-the-mill thing when you brought it before us, because it just makes so much sense, especially given the areas, that we have in Waverly with, requirement of parks and and trails in each neighborhood, and then the dry run that has, different kinds of vegetation growing along it. And so I just thought it was a normal thing. Made a lot of sense, but I didn't realize that it was unusual.
I seem to recall the conversation that Waverly is probably the smallest town that has one of these, that there are other towns, but they're all much larger.
Correct.
Any other council discussion, questions? Roll call vote, please.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Scher.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Resolution 19-172, accepting the Living Roadway Trust Fund grant up to $10,000, hereby approved. Resolution 19-173, a resolution accepting the Living Roadway Trust Fund, LRTF, grant funds to be used toward the purchase of a utility task vehicle skid spray unit for the Vegetation Management Division. Entertain a motion.
I move approval of Resolution 19-173, accepting the Living Roadway Trust Fund LRTF grant funds up to $1,870.40. I assume that's the correct amount, not $1,870,000.
Some more dollars on there.
Very expensive sprayer. To be used towards the purchase of a utility task vehicle, UTF, skid spray unit for the Vegetation Management Division with a city match of $467.60.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion, questions? Roll call vote, please.
Rafi?
Yes.
Scher?
Yes.
Waldstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkoff?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Resolution 19-173, accepting roadway trust funds grant up to $1,870.40 is hereby approved. Resolution 19-175, a resolution approving the street finance report for fiscal year 2018-19. Entertain a motion.
I will move approval of Resolution 19-175 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion, questions?
A really dumb question. Why is this not resolution number 19-174? Did we get rid of the resolution?
No, that resolution is in next meetings.
I see.
Is that the same place that Resolution 162 is?
That's what I was
Anticipated how many resolutions we would have when she asked us which resolution number should we use.
Okay, just checking.
Pretty close. Okay, I have a basic question that I can't remember the answer to. How is it determined what amount of road use tax we get?
It is based on population.
Population.
Right now, or fiscal year 19, it was 121.50 per person.
Person.
That's based off of the 2010 census.
That's
Okay.
9,874.
Another reason everybody should fill out their census form.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Scher?
Yes.
Waldstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkoff?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Resolution 19-175, approving the street finance report for fiscal year 2018-19 is hereby approved. Brings us to reports from boards and commissions. Board of Adjustment minutes, March 11th, 2019. Received into record. Planning and Zoning Commission minutes, September 5th, 2019. Received into record. Ball Diamond Task Force minutes, September 9th, 2019. Received into record. Golf Commission minutes, September 10th, 2019. Received into record. Airport Commission minutes, September 12th, 2019. Received into record. Leisure Services Commission minutes, September 19th, 2019. Received into record. Monthly financials for September 2019. Received into record. Senior Center calendar for October 2019. Brings us to staff updates, comments.
This is just kind of a save the date. We do have the Candlelight Walk scheduled for November, now I lost the date, November 9. It'll be at 5 o'clock, starting at Quick Start East. We are looking for volunteers. If anyone would like to help, we'll start setting up at 3:30 that day. So I'll have more updates as we get closer.
Okay. Any other staff comments, updates? City Council comments?
I'd like to thank a crew from Redeemer Lutheran Church who, as a Lenten project, approached the city about doing some sidewalk work up in Northeast Waverly on 2nd Avenue. There was a stretch of sidewalk that did not get done with the last batch of sidewalks in that area, and they wanted to do a community project. And so a crew led by Craig Friesman and Daryl Stagey, along with some other folks, put the sidewalk in. It looks great. So I want to thank the city staff for working with them to do that, and thank those citizens for stepping up and making that stretch of road a lot safer for everybody who uses it, school kids, daycare kids, and all of us who walk up there.
I had a couple things. First, I was going to ask Garrett to give us an update on the Exchange building. I saw that we approved payment on that, but I was happy to see that there was still some retainage that we're holding back. So what are we looking at in terms of how are things going?
Yep, that's correct. We had our Leisure Services Commission meeting down there last Thursday night. Kind of gave a tour of the building, let everyone look around, and if they noticed anything that I hadn't noticed yet, we talked about that. There are a few things that the contractor still needs to take care of. We were lucky today, things got updated. We do have lights in the bathroom now and have learned how to run the heat in the bathroom, because before we hadn't been shown how to do that. So we're still getting there. We do have a final payment that will be coming up. I have not got an invoice on that yet. I won't be bringing that to you until all these things are taken care of. There's some touch up with painting that needs to be done. Just a few, I would call it mostly minor things that need to be done, but things that need to be done before we make that final payment.
More things, but now I'm coming after Mike. So the crosswalk, the cross signal at West Bramer Avenue and 6th Street was missing for part of the day today. So we're with Quick Star West.
Yeah, I believe on the southeast corner, it maybe been struck by a vehicle.
Okay, because I noticed when I walked in this morning, like there was some cones on top of it, and I was going, I need to ask about this. And then we walked back in the afternoon, it had been magically repaired.
Yeah, so I don't know the exact story behind it, but I suspect over the weekend it had been struck by a vehicle.
Okay.
They're designed to be breakaway.
Okay. Well,
hopefully there wasn't too much damage.
So kind of on a not entirely related note, someone spoke with me about the cross signal at West Bramer and 10th Street. So this is the signal that is in front of Joe's. And one of the comments that was pointed out to me is that has walk symbols, walk, don't walk for when you're crossing Bramer. But it does not have walk, don't walk for when you're crossing along Bramer, for when you're crossing 10th. And this person pointed out that crossing is used by a lot of people coming from the Larrabee Center, perhaps going from the Larrabee Center to Pathways or to Trinkets and Togs, and that it would be good for that signal to be updated so that there are walk, don't walk symbols for the east-west direction as well. For those people coming from Larrabee Center, they may get confused if they don't have that signal to use as a guide. Now, I know that we have been going through a process of replacing a few signals every year. Camera systems. Okay, so is this something where we could think about adding those walk symbols?
Possibly. It may be limited by the controller. One of the things that we're looking at with the traffic study is to inventory all of our equipment and to identify where there may be deficiencies or limitations within the system. So I guess I'd say we would address that at that time.
Okay. So I honestly hadn't realized that there was an issue here until this person spoke with me. So I'm glad that she brought that up to me, and I'm happy to share that with you as well.
So why would you have a traffic signal like that didn't allow people to cross the street?
It allows them to. It doesn't prohibit it, but what
But they don't get a walk
They're just,
symbol.
correct, there's not an
So
indication.
you could go against the
So there's
symbol.
a similar signal at the library. So for the intersection at the library entrance, there are walk, don't walk symbols for crossing Bramer, but not
Not to
for
go
walking
east-west.
parallel to Bramer. So you just have to, trust that it's safe
Yeah.
when you go. And if you start and suddenly it turns yellow, then, you're flying to a panic.
Right.
And I think, most of us, I think, are capable of dealing
Yeah.
with that kind of anxiety, but
But
I
not
suspect
everybody.
not everybody, correct. So. Let's see. One last thing I wanted to throw out for Mike is I was reading about this area in Scotland where they have named their salt trucks. Apparently in Scotland, salt trucks are called gritters. So they have contests where they can name their salt trucks, like Gritty Gritty Bang Bang, and Gritter Garbeau, Spready Mercury. So have we ever considered naming our snowplows and giving the schools an opportunity to name them? I suspect the WSR schools would have a field day coming up with some good names for our snowplows.
No, but we have had some.
It surprises me, Mike, that you've never thought about that.
So May is National Public Works Week, and what we've talked about is kind of after the snow season, but while school is still in session, would be to have the elementary schools paint the plow blades and have kind of a art type competition, whether it's early in the spring or early in the school season. But I think having it so that the school classes can plan for it and do it in the spring, and then you can put them on display all summer long before using in the winter and scrape all the
Yes, I do.
But yeah, if you Google snowplow art, there's lots of examples, and so we thought about working with the schools, elementary schools, and maybe doing that in the spring during Public Works Week.
And finally, if there's anyone else who wants to talk to me, I will be at the Beach House. I'm pleased that we've approved their liquor license today, so there will be liquor there for anyone who needs to have a beer with me after the city council meeting.
Might be a conflict of interest for you to vote about that, though.
Just a quick question for Mike. I've noticed a lot of fire hydrants and water line valves having pink dots on them. I assume that's the GIS service going around doing their thing.
Yeah, it's not vandalism, it's not graffiti, but it's how Midland GIS, as they're going through taking shots on valves and hydrants and manholes, they mark them with a pink dot so that they know that they've been surveyed.
I can go home and tell my wife I was right.
How often does that happen?
Not very often. I have it on record tonight.
I have just one comment and one question. The comment is I'd just like to lift up Sue Van Hemert again. I know my last term serving on city council, I was the liaison to the library board, and I'm sure this continues now, but when I was doing that, there were so many compliments from citizens about the children's programs, and she is really at the heart of that. And so I think that's a wonderful award, and our library and our staff are exemplary. I think they would be hard to beat for towns our size. My question is to Mike about any update on Cedar Lane.
I wish anyone who has some pull with the person upstairs who can control the rain would greatly appreciate some sunshine for more than 2 days at a crack. So just to show how frustrating it's been, everything was lined up that they were going to work on shoulder paving Friday, Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday. We lost Saturday, we lost today. Hopefully we'll have suitable weather. I guess we need 3 days in a row to finish the shoulder paving, and then we're going to need another 4 days to finish the curb and gutter, then we need some more days to finish up with the driveways and the intersection with Brown Lane. We started out really good with nice weather in August, and then we got into September, and I think September and first week in October, I think we're near record rainfalls. I think within the first 5 days of October, we had already received over 4 inches of rain. So it's been frustrating. And unfortunately, this can happen. And the best I can say at this point is it'll be done when it's done. I think it'll be worth the wait. Those that, the neighbors,
I had a wonderful lake this morning built for us to temporarily drive in our driveways. There was a lake that went clear up the street.
We've had a couple of requests from walkers who would love to see it remain this way. I said I'd put their request in, but I don't think they'll gain any traction.
Obviously, they have more pull with the man upstairs than the city engineer does.
Well, I think they're tired of the rain as well. Yeah, they're certainly enjoying being able to get out and walk with minimal traffic.
Well, I also have a comment and a question. The comment is Bremer Avenue heading west at 20th, right at Redeemer Lutheran Church. I've been complaining for a long time about the surface there. It's been a washboard, and now it has been repaired, so hats off to the road department. I felt like the new age had arrived when I drove on that yesterday. I actually didn't know what street I was on because my car was not shaking. That's wonderful. My question, maybe this is for Ann, back to the report from the task force for Champions Ridge. I noticed that in the minutes they do indicate they have a recommendation for the for City Council as to a location for the ball fields. I wonder when they're going to bring a formal request or proposal to the council, or do we know?
You mean the minutes that we approved tonight?
Yep.
So I missed tonight's meeting because I had a medical staff meeting, but they have decided that the most suitable site is north of the soccer fields. They are going to be presenting next week, I believe.
Yes.
Isn't that right, Dean?
Yes.
At the study session about more detail.
Okay.
And Garrett, you might want to add to that.
That's exactly right. The task force will be presenting a formal presentation at the study session October 28th, and that'll pretty much be your information, and then we'll be bringing it to council to be voted on in November.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Any other council comments? I would like to, it's not a big deal, I'd like to move item number M, communication, which has to do with the goose harvest, up before I make mayor's comments. Is that something that you need to enlighten us on, Garrett, or?
Yep, I'll just make a couple of comments on that. Mostly this is for communication to the mayor and council to let you know that the goose harvest is currently in progress. The list is a list of citizens who own ag land inside city limits. That's where the hunting is allowed. The list is also, they are either hunting their land or they have people lined up to hunt their land. If there are any citizens that want to hunt, they're welcome to get a list from me. But as of right now, these folks aren't allowing any public on their land to hunt.
Is that just for public's information? One season was already passed. The other one was October 12th to December 3rd. And the final one is December 14th to January 11th of 2020.
2020, correct.
Yeah, and is that list of available sites on the city's website, or?
It is not. They would need to contact me in the Leisure
Okay,
Services
very,
office.
very good, thank you. Moving on then to the mayor's comments. Two or three little things. Don't know if everyone reads the local paper, but Steve Corson was inducted into the Luther College Athletic Hall of Fame for his efforts with football, cross country, and track and field. And so we congratulate Steve on his award. Ryan Gulick was chosen Manager of the Year for care centers, as I remember, particularly at Bartles, because he's been there quite a long time. Happens to be my grandson, Donnie Soash, was selected as firefighter of the year a week or so ago, and had the privilege of going to that ceremony at Wartburg. And so those are some recognitions, but I also would like, on behalf of the city, would like to extend condolences to Brian Bergen and his family in the loss of his mother a few days ago. And so we empathize and sympathize with you, Brian. And
thank you.
Other than that, I have no further comments. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
We are adjourned.